You know that feeling when you plug something into an online translator and the result is just nonsense? It happens all the time, and it's the perfect reminder that translation is way more than just swapping words. It's a real craft, and every craft needs a good set of tools. So today, let's open up that toolkit. I mean, seriously, think about it. You'd probably get someone looking at the sky, totally baffled, searching for actual pets falling from the clouds. It's a hilarious example of why word-for-word translation can be a complete disaster. It shows you just how much we need sophisticated techniques to get the real meaning across. And to handle these kinds of linguistic puzzles, translators have this amazing collection of strategies. We're going to call it the Translator's Toolkit. And our guide for unparking all these cool procedures is going to be the brilliant linguist Peter Newmark, who laid out a fantastic framework for all of this. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the most direct tools, then we'll get into the hunt for equivalents. After that, we'll see how translators literally bend grammar to their will, touch on some super advanced techniques, and finally, talk about how the real magic is in the art of making the right choice. All right, let's dive in. First up are the most straightforward tools in the box. You can think of these as the copy and paste options, the ones you use when you want to stick as close to the original as possible. The most direct method of all is called transference. This is basically just borrowing a word. You literally lift it from the source language and drop it, as is, right into the new one. This happens all the time with things like food, cultural ideas, or concepts that just don't have a one-to-one match. And you see this constantly, maybe without even realizing it. Words like sushi, Ramadan, or hijab are completely understood in English now. They don't need to be translated. They've been transferred, and they carry a little piece of their original culture with them. Okay, so what if it's not just one word, but a whole phrase? Well, for that, you have through translation. The fancier term for this is a calque. It's like doing a literal piece-by-piece translation of a common phrase, and it's often used for the names of organizations. See how it works? Every single component gets translated directly. European becomes European, and union becomes union. Brain drain becomes fuite de cerveau in French, which literally means flight of the brains. This method is great when the meaning can carry over that cleanly. But let's be real, it's not always that simple. What happens when a direct copy and paste just won't cut it? Well, now we have to get a little more creative. We're moving into the quest for equivalents. The first path is to search for a cultural equivalent. Now, the goal here isn't a perfect literal match. Instead, you're trying to find something in the target culture that has a similar feel or plays a similar role. You're aiming for the same impact on your reader. So, for instance, to explain the French baccalaureate to someone from the UK, you might call it the French A-level. It's not identical, but it occupies a similar place in their lives. Same for France's National Day, 14 Juillet. Calling it their Independence Day, in effect, immediately gives you a sense of its importance. It's an approximation, but it's one your audience will get. But what if an approximation isn't good enough? What if you need to be more precise? That's when a translator pulls out the functional equivalent. Here, instead of finding a cultural parallel, you just use neutral, descriptive language to explain what the thing is or what it does. Let's put them side by side, because this makes it super clear. The cultural equivalent, A-level, is relatable but a little fuzzy. The functional equivalent, French secondary school leaving exam, is way more precise, but maybe a little less snappy. The real art of translation is knowing which one of these to choose in a given moment. Okay, so far we've been talking about words and ideas, but sometimes the biggest headaches come from grammar. This next set of tools is all about reshaping the very structure of a sentence to make it sound natural and not clunky. These are called schists, or transpositions. This is where the magic really happens. A translator might turn a verb into a noun, or an adjective into an adverb. This is how you escape the grammatical shackles of the original language and write something that doesn't sound like a translation at all. Here's a super simple example. In English, we naturally say, when he arrived. That's a whole clause. But in French, it's much more elegant to say, à son arrivée, which literally means at his arrival. It's a noun phrase. The meaning is exactly the same, but the form has shifted to sound more natural. Now this next one, is really cool. It's called modulation. Think of it as a shift in your point of view. You're saying the exact same thing, but you're just looking at it from a slightly different angle. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful technique. For example, instead of you are right, it's very common in French to say tu n'as pas tort, which means you are not wrong.
Same idea, just a different perspective. Or flipping a double negative like it's not impossible into a positive, c'est possible. It's all about finding the most natural sounding path. Okay, now we're getting into the master tools. These are the advanced techniques that really separate the pros, the ones they use to solve the trickiest problems and put that final polish on a text.
One of the most powerful moves is using a couplet. This is when a translator gets clever and uses two different procedures at the same time to explain one difficult term. It's a lifesaver for really specific cultural words that need a little extra help. Check out how this works. For a word like wilaya, the translator keeps the original term, that's transference, but then they immediately add a quick, clear explanation in parentheses, that's the functional equivalent. Same with pax. The reader gets the authentic word and they know exactly what it means. It's the best of both worlds. And believe me, the toolkit just keeps going. You've got things like compensation, where if you lose a joke in one spot, you add one in somewhere else to make up for it. There's componential analysis, which is like dissecting a word to its core meaning. And of course, sometimes you just have to paraphrase or add a helpful footnote. There are so many options. So we've looked at all these amazing tools, from simple copying to complex combinations. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that translation is not a science with a bunch of rigid rules. It's an art. It's all about making thousands of tiny, informed, creative choices to build something new that just works. And that leaves us with a really big question for right now. As AI and machine translation get better and better at the basics, does the human translator, the artist who knows when to choose each of these tools, when to modulate, when to compensate, become more valuable or less? It's definitely something to think about.